Nighttime is extremely difficult for me. I don't sleep well, but it's just, I know it sounds funny, but I can't hear him breathe at night, and the lack of the noise is what makes it hard.
In the days after little Kyron's disappearance, we talked a lot about the body language of the family at the news conferences. Stepmom Terry, she's one with red hair, comforting Kyron's biological mother, Desiree, holding her. But you see, Desiree has her arms crossed and is not reciprocating. Desiree said even back then, she thought Terry was involved in her son's disappearance.
Mothers have instincts, and unfortunately, I had feelings about this when I got the phone call.
Jessica, Tennessee, your question or thought now?
Hi, I was just wondering if there was any talk of a fight that maybe they had gotten in, and maybe she was doing this as revenge with her husband.
Michelle Segona?
Well, I'm sorry, if there was a fight
between Kane and his stepmom.
Well, I think that and as Kane has mentioned in numerous interviews recently within the last 24 hours, there appeared to be a very large change in her behavior after the child was born, possibly contributed to postpartum depression, possibly not. But I think from that point, there may have been a lot of ups and downs, and he doesn't really get into the specifics of it, but I'm sure that that's something that he is discussing with investigators, and that's a very good question.
Dr. Dale Archer, psychiatrist, a friend of mine called and said maybe she has Munchausen by proxy syndrome. What is that in a nutshell?
That sounds like Pat Brown. Pat is a big proponent of that diagnosis. I mean, Munchausen is essentially a disease that you manufacture a whole host of medical conditions one after another. And by proxy means that you do it in another. But I don't see anything that would indicate...
In other words, in plain English, that she would make a child sick in order to cure the child or rescue the child and then be perceived of as a hero.
Right. Doesn't have to be a child, but could be anybody else. You make them sick and then... But in this case, I think it's all about Terry. I don't see anything pointing to the fact that the target for her anger was anything other than the reason that she was not number one in everyone's life. Remember, she came into her friend's life in order to take care of Kyron. Then she married Kyron's father, and then she had her own child. All of these individuals she felt should be beholden to her. When that didn't happen, I think it was more than she could bear.
And Jane, if she goes to the extreme length of allegedly trying to hire a hitman to kill her husband, obviously trying to kill or killing, God forbid, his child is probably the best way to harm him in her mind.
Yes, well, it's just, you know, this whole case, once we heard about the purported attempt to hire a hitman, went into a whole other stratosphere. Now, Kyron's biological parents say they passed their polygraphs with flying colors, but Terry did not. Let's listen to this.
I think everyone knows the fact that she's taken her two polygraphs. She has not passed those two polygraphs.
Kyron Horman, in fact, says his wife went in to take the first polygraph, went through part of it, and walked out in the middle of it, then delayed more than a week before taking the second one. Mike Brooks, I mean, that's extremely incriminating if true, if not.
You know, it is, Jane, but because I was saying before we had this tidbit, that number one, maybe it was inconclusive, might have been new questions, she might have been too upset, but when you walk out, they're going to have you come back because there are questions remaining they want to ask you.
Jane?
Mike?
I disagree. We can't say whether it's incriminating or not. We don't know what relevant questions were asked. What specific questions were asked. She's a hold on.
Okay, wait. One at a time. I'm going to have to bring out the big gavel.
Because perhaps the questions because perhaps the questions asked for some reason are ones that she didn't want to answer unrelated to this. She's in a deep bit of trouble right now for allegedly hiring a hitman. God knows what else she's been doing. That doesn't necessarily mean that those questions show deception as it relates to her involvement in this particular case.
Well, let me just say, go ahead.
But during the polygraph, Mark, if there are questions that need explanation, they will allow you to go ahead and explain the answers that you have, even though it might seem you're being deceptive.
So what were the questions?
But why get up? But why get up and walk out?
Thank
you. Mark, I think that the fact that LeBron James is coming to Miami has got your thought process completely off base here. And I gotta say,
I would agree.
That to me, that is unbelievably suspicious when you get up in the middle of a test where you were being evaluated for a kidnapping and walk out, and she had to know that.
Look, I walked out my SATs once.
Agree?
That's not the same kind of test, all right? This is a test that we're trying to find a missing child. I cannot think of one personal question I would not answer, however embarrassing, if I thought that somebody's life was at stake. I mean,
how about this one? How about this one? Did you, in any way, have anything to do with hiring a hitman to kill your husband? I'm out of here. I didn't know they'd ask me questions about that. Well, that doesn't mean I took the kid.
Well,
you know what? If she hired a hitman, then I think that's pretty good evidence that she's suspect number one for
maybe
the.
You need to judge.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you on that, obviously.
I want to get to another big issue here. Kyron Horman and his daughter are living in an undisclosed location right now. But Kyron wants his house back and he wants Terry out. Check this out.
Concerned about my daughter. She should be where she's the most comfortable, and we're in a great place right now, but it's not her home. And to displace a child for the comfort of an adult, I think we all have our opinions on how appropriate that is.
You left.
So Mark Eiglarsh, how does he legally proceed to try to get his house back since he left with the child?
Goodness
and
gracious.
Got a restraining order against her.
Yeah, well, you go in front of a judge and you lay it all out there. A judge who has been watching your show and others, who's well aware of the situation, and hope that you get what you need in this situation.
And they are scheduled to go to court on July 22nd for that, Jane.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, what's the legal argument? She hasn't been charged with anything. He left of his own accord. She's possibly part owner of the house. How do you say, no, you've got to leave because, you're under suspicion, but you haven't been charged with anything?
It's going to be a challenge. I mean, it depends on the facts. I don't have all the facts, Jim. We don't know really what's going on. We don't. We're outsiders. I don't know.
What do you make, Mike Brooks, of the statement that she has antifreeze in her veins?
Well, I'm not Dr. Dale Archer, that's for sure, but it sure seems like she does. And I still just can't get past walking out on that polygraph, Jane. That just
get past it.
I'm not getting past it, counselor. I'm not.
I agree. It's the most incriminating thing we've heard so far. Thank you. Lindsay Lohan telling friends she is not going to jail. We'll have that next.
Just to give some background information, Kyron purchased the home 3 months prior to marrying Terry in 2007. So in 2007, Terry stopped working so she could take care of Kyron. So I'm not sure how this is all going to work out with the house, but he only owned the home 3 months prior to their marriage, and not sure what's on the deed, if she's on the deed at all or not. So it'll be interesting to see how they settle this. He left, understandably so, but maybe he should have had her removed from the house and he stayed there. I don't know.